So as shown in this table, this is the primary key processes and the main 10 knowledge areas, plus the key process groups that the PMP exam is gonna cover. So the PMP exam is structured around 5 process groups and 10 knowledge area encompassing 49 processes. These elements are essential for effective project management and are designed to ensure constant and repeatable success across different projects. To start with the initiating or start with the process group number one, which is initiating. So as you could see that initiating have a key processing involve developing the project charter, identifying the stakeholders. Initiating is holding these processes, which is performed to define a new project or a new phase of an existing project after authorization happens. Again, the two main key processes here is the developing the project charter and identifying the stakeholder. Don't worry, because we are gonna go through each of these key processes and we'll discover each of their ITTOs, some real world example just to make it more understandable. The next key process group here is the planning, and the planning phase or the planning process group. These processes used to plan the project scope and objectives and set out a course of, for achieving these objectives, which we have identified on the initiating phase. The key processing, as you could see, involved in planning phase include developing the project management plan, the scope management plan, collecting the requirements, defining the scope, creating the WBS or the work breakdown structure, and then you move to the planning the schedule management, and that planning schedule management will need you to define the activities within the project and then sequence these activities. You will also have to estimate the activity duration and then develop the whole schedule based on all of these processes. The next process here we have is plan cost management, and that will include the estimating the cost and determining the budget. We have also planning the quality management, as well as planning the resource management, and that will require you to estimate the activity resources in order to come up with the resource management plan. Next, we have the planning communication management, plan risk management, identifying risks, performing qualitative and quantitative risk analysis, then plan risk responses. Finally, you have planning the procurement management and then planning the stakeholder engagement. So all of these key processes, we are going to go through each of them, discuss each of their ITTOs, see how it looks in real world, just to make it more clear to you and on how these processes are used on real world scenarios. So this is all for the planning process group or key process group here. Next, we have the executing phase or the executing process group. So the key processes here involved is performed to complete the work that is defined in the project management plan to satisfy the project requiremements. So think as whatever plans that you have identified on the planning phase. The executing phase will ensure that you are compiling these plans and performing all of these, activities within these plans to complete the work which is defined on the project management plan. The key processes involved on executing phase is the direct and manage work, or direct and manage project work, manage the project knowledge, manage the quality, acquire the resources that you have planned to acquire, develop the team, manage the communication, implement risk responses that you have identified on the risk management plan, conducting the procurement, managing the stakeholder engagement. So these are the key processes that you might see on the exam. That summarizes the executing phase. Next, we have the monitoring and controlling as the fourth process group that we have to our session. So, monitoring and controlling processes, it's required to track and review and regulate the process or regulate the progress and the performance of the project. You may identify any areas in which changes to the plan are required and initiate the corresponding changes. So, in case if that you have planned something on the planning phase, but you have executed it and you find yourself you have to do some changes, so monitoring and controlling come on place. The key processes involved at this phase is monitor and control the project work, perform integrated change control, validating the scope, controlling the scope. Both of them will, we'll discuss each of them in detail. And then we'll have controlling the schedule, controlling the costs, the project costs, controlling the quality to ensure that you are meeting the quality requirement that you have set on the plan, controlling the resources and monitor communication, monitor risk to ensure that you are, implementing the risk responses, keep an eye on all of these risks that you have listed. You need to monitor them closely, and then you have to control the procurement and then monitor the stakeholder engagement. These are the key processes that summarize the monitoring and controlling key process group. The last phase here we have is the closing. The closing is holding only one key process, which is close the project or phase. A closing phase processes are performed to formally complete or close the project or the contract, for example, in case if you are doing any procurement and you have some contracts to do, and also to ensure that all of the requirements, all of the the stakeholders are satisfied with the project that you delivered. So these are the key main process groups and the key processes that involved and at each of these process groups as presented to you here.